Nvidia stock has gone on an incredible run. It's up 681% in basically a year and a half. And now, with shares over $1,100 each, the company just announced a 10-for-1 stock split that's going to make the stock a little over $100 a share, a lot more appealing for individual investors. That's not the most important thing investors need to know about Nvidia right now. I'm Jason Hall. This is Investing Unscripted. I'm going to talk about something that's a lot more important for investors looking to profit in the years ahead. We'll talk about that here in this video. Before we get to the details, though, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. If you're looking for even more great stock ideas, I've got a great deal for you. Go to our special link. You see it on the screen. It's fool.com/unscripted. In addition to the insights I'm going to give you on this video, go to that link. The Motley Fool is going to give you its 10 best stocks to buy right now. Definitely take the time to check that offer out. Okay, let's get to it. Like I said, 681% gains since the beginning of 2023. That is a remarkable run for any stock. And I can tell you a lot of investors say, well, what more could possibly happen? We have a catalyst coming up in a few weeks, a 10-for-1 stock split. So that one share that's worth $1,100 is going to be 10 shares worth about $114 a share based on the most recent price. Now, that's also going to make it a lot more appealing for individual investors. Of course, if you have fractional investing now, if you want to buy $200 or $500 worth of a stock, you can do that on most of the major online brokers now and just buy fractional shares. But it's still going to be a lot more appealing to be able to buy whole shares for a lot of investors. But the whole point of this video is to talk about some stuff that's a lot more attractive. We need to set the background first. Talk about what's happened that's driven the stock up so much. Obviously, we know that it's AI. We know lots of companies are spending tons of money on artificial intelligence, buying those GPUs from Nvidia, getting in that CUDA ecosystem to develop. So it's not just the hardware, it's the software, it's the full ecosystem to be able to develop in. So we know that's it, but I want to put some numbers to it. And this is going to set us up for the most important thing to know. Now, I know a lot of investors don't really like digging into the nuts and bolts and the numbers, but at the end of the day, the story's fun, but it's the quality of the business that you own that's going to create value for you over time. And man, oh man, has Nvidia been doing that. So right here, this is the most recent quarter. Look at the revenue, $26 billion in revenue. They've more than tripled revenue, $7.2 billion in revenue to $26 billion. And again, this was like one of the first quarters where we started to see some signs that data center revenue was shifting more and more towards AI demand. It was really the second quarter that kind of made the big jump. We're starting to lap some of those results, but $26 billion in revenue, massive growth. Now we can take a closer look, see some of the growth rates. It's important. It's not just revenue on the top line. We're going to get into the profits too, but I wanted to share this part right here that really breaks down exactly what's happening with AI and that's driving the growth. So this top line right here, data center, and then they break it up into compute, which is mostly, this is where the AI stuff is happening, but other data center applications like cloud applications and things where GPUs make more sense than CPUs. This is up huge. So up 478% year over year, just from the prior quarter, from the last quarter of fiscal 2024, up almost 30%. Also really big growth in networking too. So this is important because we're starting to see more and more money flow into networking hardware powered by NVIDIA's GPUs as well. So that business was up 242%. That's more than triple year over year. And now it's a $12 billion annual business on its own right. That is huge. To put that number into context, Arista Networks, which is one of the major suppliers of networking hardware and software to build flexible networks, they did about $6 billion in sales over the past 12 months. So NVIDIA has already built a networking business that's twice the size of one of the largest, best networking hardware and software providers in the world. So it's really impressive what they've done. I want to highlight this too, because I think this is also a thing. One of the things that's more important than this 10-for-1 stock split, you look at the other businesses, these other segments of its business. Gaming, this is the foundation that's created everything else. This business is starting to recover as well. Professional visualization up a ton. Automotive business is starting to come up. So we're starting to see recovery in some of these other businesses because a lot of people may not realize semiconductor industry is actually broadly in a cyclical downturn right now. AI is really the one bright spot So I think that's an important thing to know. It's not just top line growth, massive profitability, almost $15 billion in net income in the quarter, 628% increase there. And the company's turning a massive amount of that profit into free cash flow, almost $15 billion in free cash flow in the quarter, not just growing like crazy, but also growing profits at an enormous rate and generating a substantial amount of cash. So that's where the business is now. That's what's driven the performance of the stock. Now, there's expectations that the growth is going to continue, at least in the near term too. So that, I think we all already kind of know that, but really the big unanswered question that so many investors want to know about NVIDIA going forward is, and this is the important thing, this is the thing that I wanted to really focus on. What's business going to look like next year and the year after that and the year after that? Because this is a very cyclical industry. AI is the latest growth phase. We're in a build phase right now. At some point, the growth is going to slow down. And because of the cyclical nature, there's a chance that the industry takes a step back and actually shrinks a little bit in terms of CapEx spending that's driving it right now. Investors need to know, if you're interested in NVIDIA stock, how is that going to affect your returns going forward? Well, I've got some good news for investors who might be concerned that this is just a bubble that is set to pop. I'm going to start with a white paper here from AMD. This is one of NVIDIA's big competitors. They do a lot of CPUs, but they also are a big competitor in the GPU space as well. Haven't been anywhere near as disruptive. I haven't taken the same kind of market share that NVIDIA has, most certainly, but this is a stock that's done really well too, because they've started growing and they're selling into AI applications as well. They've done well in the cloud, 159% in stock gains since the beginning of 2023. That's not the incredible results that NVIDIA stock has delivered. I don't know about you, but I would be very happy with a stock that's up 160% in a year and a half. But the short version is this: AMD spoke to a lot of IT leaders and experts in global IT. And the basic feedback that they're getting is that we're still early in the story. The vast majority believe it can help their businesses in some way to be more efficient, help employees be more efficient, help with cybersecurity, which is a substantial threat, and that is a massive addressable market. One thing that was really interesting about it, despite the fact that so many of these IT professionals are optimistic about AI and have some familiarity, the majority of those surveyed by AMD say they still haven't used these natural language apps. So you think about ChatGPT and that sort of thing. They still haven't actually used them. So not a lot of exposure to some of the best technologies that are really driving the way AI is being proliferated right now. But again, the point is, IT professionals are saying, we think this can help our business. We think this can help our industry. We think we can become more efficient. We can do things that we need to do that are important, like managing security better with AI. So that's really good. I think that says that we're still in the early innings. Now, I want to share one more thing from AMD. This is from Dr. Lisa Su, who is the chair and the CEO of AMD. This is from the most recent earnings call in late April. And this is just one little snippet right here from a response that she made to an analyst at Cowen, to Matt Ramsey, about thinking about the market. And she called for a total addressable market for AI compute of $400 billion. I'm going to highlight that again in 2027. AI compute addressable market, $400 billion in 2027. I want to put that into context. So NVIDIA's revenue last quarter, data center revenue, just under $23 billion. So you look at the run rate, $26 billion in total revenue. In the first quarter, they're saying it's going to be $28 billion. In the second quarter, a lot of that's going to hit right here in the data center. Not all of this, but a vast majority of this is flowing into AI applications. So let's call it $90 billion that NVIDIA is going to earn in revenue that is mostly tied to AI this year. Lisa Su says they're expecting in 3 years, that's going to be a $400 billion market. So is NVIDIA going to continue to get the majority of it? I don't know. Are they going to continue to get a lot of it? I think there's very little doubt that that's going to be the case, especially in the near term. Yes, lots of companies are working on their own GPU designs because they're spending so much money. NVIDIA got almost 80% gross margins last quarter. Companies are spending tens of billions of dollars on this. They want to get the best return they can. And if that means designing things in-house that maybe meet their needs better and they can drive out cost, they're going to try to do that, right? AMD, again, is really focusing a lot of its resources on being more competitive with Nvidia. This is kind of the rising tide that lifts all boats. But I think the point is that expecting this to be a bubble that's going to pop very soon might not be the case. So I think investors should consider the potential reality that we're still early in this build phase, and Nvidia could continue to see substantial revenue growth going forward. One more thing I'm going to share. I'm not going to share it here on the screen, but something really valuable. The folks at Bloomberg, they're looking at generative AI by 2032. So we're getting a little further out, another 5 years beyond 2027. Generative AI, so not AGI. This is just the generative AI part of the market, to be $1.3 trillion by 2032. To be clear, that's not all hardware and software that Nvidia would sell. That's the total market. The point is that this market is on track to continue to be much, much larger than it is. Here's my last word on this. Thinking about Nvidia, it's a stock to buy right now or not buy, or even sell if you have a lot of exposure to it and you've done really well. That's a really individual question. But I do think what we're going to have to learn over the next few years is, are companies getting a return for their investments in AI? Microsoft's not going to keep spending $20, $30 billion a year. Alphabet's not going to spend $30, $40 billion a year, some of the biggest money they've ever spent in CapEx, on generative AI and other artificial intelligence that's not creating value for them or for their customers. They need to be able to sell something based on this AI that creates value and generates margin and return for the businesses. If we don't see those returns, then these big numbers we're talking about, $400 billion addressable market AMD is laying out there, $1.3 trillion by 2032 for generative AI that Bloomberg's saying, those numbers are going to shrink a whole lot. So we're still very much in that optimistic phase. And there's a tremendous amount of, I don't want to say irrational exuberance, but the expectations right now are very high. Those expectations could prove to be low, right? Depending on how this plays out. But there's still certainly a case where this fizzles out if it doesn't generate a return for the businesses that they're counting on right now. So I do think, even though Nvidia still has a lot of room to grow if things continue to go well with artificial intelligence, there's certainly still a lot of risk investors need to consider before they buy shares. You may want to even think about a company like AMD that could be one of the upstarts that kind of takes more and more of the market, where Nvidia could see its market share shrink. So that might be another way to invest in this without thinking just that this one winner is going to continue to be the biggest and only winner in the artificial intelligence market for GPUs.